Hello everybody and welcome to Building a Second Brain, episode 3 in season 3. It's wild. When I started this, I didn't know how long I was gonna do this and if anybody would show up at all. You just press the button, go live, and then will people show up? Or is it going to be just me talking into the void? So apparently it's not. So it's always good to see you guys. And this one today is live at very short notice. But those of you who know that I go live will hopefully tune in. So I'm happy for everybody who is here. As always, I had a busy couple of weeks. I was in London for a couple of days. First for Cloud Summit in London, which was really exciting. We had lots of people come to the Firebase booth and it was extremely warm. So we had the Firebase booth, which was inside, and there was some racks that looked like, it looked like a bookshelf essentially, but with vents on them, and they were supposed to be air conditioned, and they did work, but only if you stood, right next to them, literally like in front of the vents. But if you moved any distance from those air-conditioned racks, it pretty much stopped working. So it was pretty warm already, and there were lots of people in the building. So the event took place at the tobacco dock, which apparently is an old tobacco warehouse, and it's a really nice venue. And I was able to hold lots of people, and lots of people came to ask about Firebase Studio because that was our dark mode version, please. I'm dark. Dark t-shirt. So I don't know how much darker I should get. Anyways, so people came to talk about Firebase Studio, and we gave them loads of demos, which was good fun, and we vibe coded lots of applications. And at the end of the day, of the second day, I also gave a live demo at one of the stages, and that did not have air conditioning. So there was not even air quotes air conditioning. So it was so hot. I was so happy that it was only just 15 minutes because, sweat started dripping down my face after the 5th minute. And not because I was so scared of the audience or I was so afraid of the demo going wrong, but it was so hot. So that was Cloud Summit. And then I had the good fortune to go to Bletchley Park over the weekend, where the GDG Bletchley Park ran an event called Build with AI at Bletchley Park, and that was fantastic as well. So I don't know if you've been to Bletchley Park before. It's a big site, and there are 2 parts of it. So there's one part which is actually Bletchley Park with the mansion, and you might know this from the movie The Imitation Game, which plays at Bletchley Park, and they show how they crack the Enigma code. And the event that I went to took place at Block H, which is also on the grounds of Bletchley Park, but it's separated by a fence, and it's inside the old huts. So it is actually inside World War II great listed buildings. And surprisingly, despite it was very, very hot outside. Inside it was not too bad. So in that block H, there is the National Museum of Computing, and they have lots of old computers. And if I say lots of old computers, I don't mean, you know, an old Mac. They do have old Macs as well, or an old PC. They do have old PCs as well, but like proper old computers, like literally they have the oldest working computer. And they have the bomb, which was used to break the Enigma code, and they demonstrate it, and it is just fantastic. So the conference took place on or in the computing museum, and we were able to, you know, between the talks, we were able to check out the museum. And I was so fascinated. I went back the next day to properly take some time to explore the museum, talk to the people there, and every room has a volunteer that can demonstrate all of the stuff that's there and who can answer all of the questions. And it was so great to be able to talk to those people and, you know, hear how everything works. So I would totally recommend, if you have an opportunity to go there, please check it out. It's totally worth your time, and it's not actually that expensive. I think it was about £15 or something like that for an adult. So, you know, it's a steal for what you get. And after that, I went back to London, and we recorded a couple of videos for Firebase AI Logic, which are currently in edit and will be posted, you know, in the next couple of weeks. So good stuff. I'm really excited about those videos. We have a bunch of really exciting stuff that we're talking about. So definitely check these out and let us know if you build anything with Firebase AI Logic. Hey Franklin, and hello Doge Weber. Glad you could join us today. So for today, what I'm planning to do is this afternoon, I sat down, opened the code that we worked on last time, and I asked Coding Intelligence in Xcode to implement a feature, and I'm going to demonstrate this now. And my plan is to see if I can re-implement that. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to explain a little bit how it works so that all of us can walk away having learned something, hopefully. Or you can walk away saying, well, I already knew that, but it was great to see Peter trying to explain it to me. All right, so let's go to the live view, and let me make some space so you can see better. Oh wow, this is taking up a lot of space. Okay, so let me see, am I in the right? I'm not. So let me go into the right window. So here we go, and we should go into the prep and then open the code that we used last time. Yes, I want to revive the vibe coded stuff. Let's see how it goes. All right, so here is our Xcode window. All right, so, and this view now should have two previews. Let's double check if it has. Yep, this looks good. So let's refresh it. So if you recall, last time we worked on classifying this chat view here, and I told you that I have this component, which is called Conversation Kit. I'm planning to open source it, and what I'm going to show you today is part of the work to open source it. So last time, what we were able to achieve looks something like this, and you can see that we have this scroll view with the chat bubbles. You can see that here we have one partner in the chat conversation. Here is another partner in the chat conversation. We've got those chat bubbles, and chat bubbles can either contain only text, or they can contain only an image, or they can contain an image and a text. And down here you have your input field, which should show a keyword, but in the simulator or in the preview, stuff doesn't always work as it should. So, just imagine that we have a keyboard here. Anyways. And then so if we look at how the code for that looks like, we've got our conversation view here, and we have the on-send message. So if I type something in here, can I type something? I don't know. Yes, I can. Hello. Then hit enter. Oh, nothing's happening. What's that? Well, all right. Something should be happening, but nothing is happening. Why is that? Let's see. Oh, okay. Nothing is happening because apparently we so we print something, and it should be appended to the messages. Okay, so maybe the change that the AI implemented for me today resulted in this whole thing breaking. We'll see. Anyways, so let me show you the thing that I asked the AI to implement for me, which is custom chat bubbles. So you'll notice that these look slightly different. So let's go back to the first one. So the ones that I implemented originally have this chat bubble, and you can see that down here, the three corners have one kind of rounded corner, and then the one that is nearest to the person talking is slightly less rounded, to give this effect of, knowing where this is coming from. Yeah, here you can see it much better. So maybe I should work on the roundedness a little bit more and make it even more pronounced on larger bubbles. Okay, so this is how it looks like in the one that I implemented myself. And then this is what the AI implemented for me. So it looks slightly different. It doesn't have an avatar, but it has a different color, and the images are offset a little bit. So it's not auto layout, but I'm going to show you what it is. So let's have a look at the code for the preview, and if I make a little bit more space to make sure that this doesn't break as much, we can see that we still have our conversation view here, but now instead of directly having the on-send message thing here, what we have is a closure, and inside that closure we have a VStack. So that means that we can create our view implementation right in here, instead of relying on the conversation view itself. So let's look at the view implementation in the conversation view. So we've got the conversation view, and then inside the the scroll view, we are using message view, and the message view is implemented like this. So it is a view, and inside the body we have this H stack, and which shows us an icon for the participant, and then we have the chat bubble itself. So that is the default implementation. So coming back to your question about, is this using auto layout? It's not. It's using, so what I told it was, can you please consume, X% of the screen? So here, for example, I said, you must only, can you please consume up to 2/3 of the screen's width, and you may use 40% of the screen's height. And that was what he came up with. It works, but also it means if we were to use that view inside of a different size screen, for example, on an iPad, things would break or not look great, because the view itself might take up, only just the left part of the iPad, but still we would use the entire UI screen width to compute how wide the image might get. So this is probably not the best way to implement it, but that was what the AI gave me. I did say, can you please use the view height and the view width, but instead it used the screen width and screen height. So, well, anyways. Okay, so I'm going to close this, and then we're going to go into the live folder, and the live folder has the same sample application, but it doesn't have the code that I showed you. So if we refresh the view here, you can see that we only have this one preview. Okay, so that is one thing I want to do, and the other thing is it's pretty difficult to see in the preview, but I'm going to show this in the simulator. So those of you who watched the previous episode might remember that we had an issue with how the this glass effect worked like. And you might remember that I showed this, and then it looked like the light effect behind it didn't, or was clipped, right? So it was clipped by what looked like an ellipsis or ellipse. And I said I could try to work out how to fix this, or I could just wait for Apple to fix this in the operating system or in the SwiftUI implementation, because honestly, I think it is a bug. And lo and behold, when they shipped the latest version of iOS, of the latest beta version, I recompiled the application, ran it against the simulator, and also ran it against a physical device. And lo and behold, the problem was fixed. So sometimes you just gotta be patient. Okay, so, but the other thing that I want to explore is, if you look closely what's happening here or what's not happening here, you will notice that the plus button here and the left edge of the input field don't melt, right? So in liquid glass, this should melt. We can have a look at the physical phone. So here is my phone that I'm mirroring over, and if I go in here, let's see if we can, yeah. It's difficult to see, but you can see that, they are touching, right? And now they melt, and even if I move way to the right-hand side, there is still motion together in a way, and it's hard to rip it off. Oh no, there you go. Okay, cool. So, and I want to make sure that we somehow get this effect as well. So, but let's first look at creating those reusable chat bubbles. So, let's do a shameless plug. And I've written about custom components before, and there is even a tutorial that I created building reusable SwiftUI components. And it took me a lot of time to create this because building those tutorials is lots of work. So what we're going to do today is something of what's mentioned here. So there are a couple of chapters and tutorials that teach us how to build custom UI, how to make it configurable, and so on and so forth. So definitely a resource worth checking out if you haven't already. So coming back to Xcode, what we want to achieve, and I'm going to add another preview to allow us to do that. So let's go here, and I'm going to copy the entire thing, I think. So here's another preview, and I think I should be able to give it a title, right? Custom chat bubbles. Save that, refresh, and hopefully, yep, I did it the right way. So now we've got two previews and they both should be the same. That's pretty sweet. Okay. Also, let's see if we can refactor this a little bit. Do we have an extension on this? No, we don't. So that might also be a good idea. Okay. Public struct message. Let's create an extension. Extension message. Static let sample is messages. And now yep, I know, but now let's take those sample messages from down here and put them up here. Like that. And then message dot sample. Right. All right. Hello, Evelyn. Welcome to the stream. Oh, I completely forgot to ask where everybody is dialing in from. So I set up this challenge last time. Let's try to get to a point where we have one person at least from every continent dialing into the stream. I know it's a challenge, because it means somebody has to get up really early or stay up really long, but who knows? So let us know where you're from, everybody who's on the stream, and then we'll figure out if we can beat my challenge. So, okay, so we've got this, and then we can do this up here as well. All right. So now we have our two views, previews, and these are quite some interesting images. Okay, that's funny. Okay. And I'm interested what happens if I send a message. You know, it's still... Okay, so something seems to be broken. Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah. Okay, so if you know what's the problem in my code, you can type it into the chat as well. So there is a problem with how we set up the state. Right, so we've got the state here, but I print something and it apparently goes to the console. So let's try that. So hello. What? No, this is, oh yeah. Okay, so here we go. So it prints it on the console, but it doesn't add it to the message array. Although we do say, please add it to the message array. So any clues? We are missing the add previewable macro. And this also means it must be at the root scope. So outside of the navigation stack. And now this should work. Let's try. There you go. Hello again. Perfect. So let's fix this up here as well. Nice. Of course, need to put it up here. Great. All right, so we've got people dialing in from India and Brazilians dialing in from the United States. And I'm in Hamburg, Germany. All right, so we've got the western part of the globe covered. Let's see if we can, if anybody is joining us from the eastern part of the globe. Cool. So we've got our conversation view, and I want to be able to do something like this. Let's do a simple one. Texts. Message in. And then message dot whatever, right? So I want to pass in one of the messages here, and then inside this closure, I want to be able to use any kind of SwiftUI view to build up my own view. So let's try to implement this. So what we need to do here is we need to go and enhance our initializer. So if we go into the conversation view initializer, we can see that we already have one initializer and we want to keep that. So I'm going to create a new initializer and it's already public, right? So that is also something that we need to keep in mind because we'll want to use this view outside of this package and in the context of other applications, and that is why it needs to be public. Normally, when you build SwiftUI views, you probably don't use public, and everything is basically package visible. But for this to be reusable, it needs to be public. So we want, well, I can just copy that. If only I wasn't jumping around that much. Okay, so let's make a copy. Like that. And then I want to be able to pass in a closure. And it should be the trailing closure so that we have this nice syntax of having the closure at the end of the call side. So so let's take a look at how this is defined on a Z stack. Yeah, let's take the Z stack, right? So if we go into the Z stack, you can see that we have our initializer, and the initializer has two parameters here: alignment, which defaults to center, and then we've got the closure, and the closure is named content. So that is something that SwiftUI is kind of like a SwiftUI best practice. So for example, if we look at the lazy VStack, you can also see that there is a content closure. What about for each? We also have content. That is our closure, and it's a view builder. So let's do that as well. So content, and it needs to return a view. Let's double check. Oh, so it returns content. Yeah, so the reason why that is we'll need to use generics to tell SwiftUI what is the kind of content that we have here, right? So you can see we have our initializer, the view builder closure, and it returns content, and content in this context conforms to view. Okay, let's go back. So we'll say this, and let's just hide this for a moment. So now it says, I can't find the content type. It suggests to import core media, which is not the right thing to do. But instead, we will just say, well, this is our generic type up here. And then we'll say where content is a view. So what about the compiler? Is it so? It is unhappy. Okay, so let's see how we can make it happy. Well, so the thing is, we are here and it says parameter content could not be inferred. Okay, so I have a hunch that this might be because we have our default implementation, which has a different type of content view. But let's look at that later. But keep on going and make sure that we can save our content somewhere. So we'll need to store our closure, and that should probably be a private field. And yeah, so let content empty parameter and returns a content. So that's that. And then we'll have to assign it here, let content equals content. Okay, and now it says, well, this can be escaping. So you need to mark it up as at escaping. And there is a quick fix for that. So this works nicely. So when we call this, we can pass in our content closure and we store it, and then we can use it later on. So let's take a look at the call side and see if we can already use this. Okay, so the compile error goes away, and we're going to do this here as well. So now we have another compile error up here, and that one says somebody might call this initializer here, and if they do, the self.content is not initialized, so we need to do something about it. And in this case, what we want to do is, this is the default initializer. We want to use this message view that we've defined down, well, not down here, but up here, and down here we use it. So let's see how we can make that happen. So oh, this is interesting. So self.content, and in the assist suggestion here, you can see that it suggests to register a closure, and oh, you know, that doesn't look that great. I think the first one that we got was a lot better. No. Okay, because what we can do here is we can say, well, we'll return a text here. And then it says, but text doesn't conform to content. So we somehow need to tell it that you know, what we're doing down here conforms to whatever content is. And the way to do that is to say where, and then we'll use this suggestion here. But in this case, it's not never, but it is message view. So now, okay. Initializer cannot be declared public because its generic requirement uses an internal type. And that is because this is not public. So let's make it public. That means we need to make the body public as well. Let's go back. And then it says, well, you can't convert text to message view because we said we want to use a message view here. But we can say message view, okay. So that's participant.other. Okay, so it still said, well, is that true? Okay, so so this compile error is gone, but we've got a couple of others now. So first of all, what's that about? UI utilities. Well, I have no idea where that is coming from. Okay, so the linker is complaining about a bunch of things here. Build failed. Okay, let's see what this is about. All right, here we go. Undefined symbol protocol conforms descriptor for conversationKit.conversationView, SwiftUI.view, and ConversationKit. And then here it says undefined symbol conversationKit.conversationView.init messages SwiftUI.binding conversationKit.messages returns ConversationKit ConversationView. All right, so very unhelpful, I have to say. Let's try to work it out. Okay, so we said that we're passing in a closure. The closure is escaping. It takes no parameters, so that is something that we need to work on, and it returns content. And then we said content conforms to view. And we have our private field, which also returns content. So that looks good to me. Serve.content is a closure, and that closure returns a message view. So let's maybe first work on making sure that we can actually pass in a message here. So what we want to be able is down here, instead of saying text dummy, we want to have access to the message. So we want to be able to write message in. So that is our parameter here, and it should be of type message. So I'm going to copy a message. And let's go to our closure. And we need to pass in a message. And we need to update this here. And now it says this is ambiguous, and this is because we need to pass in the message here as well. And now we can say message dot content, I believe, and then message dot image URL, and the participant is message dot participant, right? Okay. So we've got more compile errors now. First one being this doesn't have a parameter, so let's provide this. All right, so I am going to clean the entire thing because I think we did everything right. See, this is, sometimes I think the Swift UI or the Swift compiler is amazing at gaslighting us, right? It says, well, there are some compiler errors, or here are some linker errors, and then you clean and you rebuild and they're gone. It's unbelievable. Okay, so, but, let's see if this works now. And instead of, so I want to do two things here, right? So one is we have two initializers. So the first one is one where we only pass in the messages and a binding to the messages. And the other one is one where we pass in the binding to the messages and this content closure. So we technically should be able to remove this closure here and say, well, in this case, we do want to make use of the default implementation. So let's build And this looks nice. So let's get the preview going. So this still works because we use the internal version of our chat bubble. So that's great. So that means this preview here, where we don't provide the closure for our custom implementation, uses, and let me click on it. So this uses this initializer here, where we go in and say, we want to register this closure so that whenever a message is sent in, we want to initialize this message view. So, and now down here in the body, you can see that I forgot to do something that is really important. So I still instantiate this message view manually. But instead of doing that, what I should be doing is I should use the content and I should pass in the message. And now we can see that this is still working here. So now we're actually using this content that we registered up here. Great. So that works. Now let's go down and see if our other implementation works, and it does. As you can see, we basically, for every single message, we now print this static text. So instead of printing dummy, let's print the message content. And if it's empty, we'll just print empty. And here we go. Cool. So this works really nicely. So we've established the basic infrastructure for our for custom chat messages, and now it is a matter of how well can I re-implement what the AI gave us to make those look nice. So as you know, everybody who's on the stream and has been watching the stream before, I'm a lazy person and I try to reuse as much as possible. So what we want is we want some sort of bubble, right? So we're going to use this entire thing here. Oh yeah. Oh well, let's see if we need that. And then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to paste it. So now we get a bunch of problems here. So wherever it tries to access some of those fields, we need to prefix that. We've got this. Oh, it's quite a lot of things. Participant. All right. What else? Unwrap conditional requires a valid identifier. Let's fix this one. Yeah, we can remove this. And then this. Oh. What? Really? Okay. Oh, yeah. And yeah, so I was using shorthand to unwrap the image URL, and that doesn't work if you need to fully qualify. Okay, so now message dot, no exact match. What is message? Message is a message is our message right there. So that should be message.content. Or it could be empty, of course. Ah, there we go. So it's the same issue here. If message content equals message.content. There we go. All right. And let's refresh the preview. Nice. So it looks exactly the same. And now we can start refactoring this code here. So what I want is I want the image to be on top. So let's get the image. So first the image. Let's get this, put it here, and then we want to get the message, which is here, and we want to display that below, and yeah, we want rounded corners for all of them, but we can do that manually. Padding, background. Yeah, this looks like something that we might want to use. And then I think we can throw away most of the other stuff. Like this. Okay, so now this will complain because this needs to be wrapped in a view, and it should be a VStack, I think. Okay, so that's that. That's this. This is matching. No, not new file. Refresh the canvas. Do we have a missing? Oh, it seems like there is a missing phrase. Yep, this one here. Oh, okay, here we go. So this is not too bad. So let's hide the images for a moment and keep on working on this here. So we've got our message views, and we want to have rounded corners. Rounded corners.all, radius 8. How's that? Oh, what? No. See, radius is a CG float, 8. Is that good? Missing argument. Corners. Okay, so it is because, oh yeah, so we have, it's this really useful extension that we created earlier on. So we need to provide the CG float, and then the corners is UI rect corner. So let's see how that works. Corners dot all corners. Nice. So 8 doesn't look too bad. Let's do something more exaggerated. 20 is way too much. How about 10? Yeah, 10 looks good to me. Nice. All right, so that's that. And then we want to make sure that we get these aligned properly. And that we can achieve by checking who is the participant. So if we look back at how we did this on the message view, you can see, well, hello. Where is our implementation? What? Oh, it's just collapsed. Here we go. So what I did here is to check if there is a participant or who's the participant, and then put a spacer at the beginning or the end of the H stack. And that's what we're going to do as well. So down here, we are in a V stack. So one line, other line, and then now we need to make sure that we have a H stack here. And if the participant is the user, we will have a spacer. And that means they are pushed to the right. And then at the end, we'll do the same, but opposite way. If participant equals the other, and now they are pushed to the side. Nice. Let's get the images back. So these are too large for my tastes. So what we're going to do is well, they are resizable already, but we'll put a frame here. And we'll do max width and max height. And then for the max width, let's use 200, max height 400. And now it's difficult to see who they belong to, so we'll need to use the same thing here. So here it uses a spacer to push these out. Now they're centered, and now we need the same thingy here for pushing them wherever they need to be. So let's see if that works. Oh, yeah. Let's do this one as well, and then let's see what the problem is. Yeah, so this needs to be in a HStack. Yeah, there we go. All right, so here we are. This is a, this is a implementation of a, different way to present the chat bubbles. And you'd probably want to also implement something to show the avatar, but you can see that you can define your view right here, right inside the conversation view. So what we set out to do works well, and you'd probably refactor this into a custom view so that it's easier to handle. But because here it is really just in the preview, I think this is fine. All right, so that's done. And because we've achieved something, let's use the party popper emoji. Look at that. And let's take a look at the other thing that I promised we would have a look at. So let's go into the browser, and this is exactly what I was talking about. So here we can see two buttons, and those buttons are close to each other, and probably somebody is pressing one of the buttons, and then they kind of morph into each other. And apparently what you need to do is to use a class effect container to do that. So let's have a quick look at how this works. So it says combine multiple views with liquid glass containers. Use glass effect container when applying liquid glass effects on multiple views to achieve the best rendering performance. A container also allows views with liquid glass effects to blend their shapes together and to morph in and out of each other during transitions. Inside a container, each view with the glass effect in modifier renders with the effects behind it. So here we can see we've got the glass effects container. It provides a spacing, and we'll have to figure out what the spacing means in a moment. And then we have our HStack for the grouping, and our images, and they also add the glass effect on each of those images. So it's not buttons, but images. And then they say an offset shows how liquid glass effects react to each other in a container. Use animations and components appearing and disappearing to obtain effects that look purposeful. So let's and then they go on to explain if you want to have two elements that are already grouped together without first being separated, this is how you do it. But let's try this here, class effects container, and let's go back into our code. And the code in question is on the input view. So last time we refactored this a little bit, and we called it message compose view. And here we see two examples of how that might look like, one with a single line input, and here on the second one we've got two lines, and we did that to work out the corner radius and how the extent of the text input view of the text field. So I believe that what we should probably do is wrap this whole thing in the class effect container. class effect container, and then find the end. Here. Okay. So okay, so they also said that you need to use glass effect on all the elements, which, I mean, so we don't have glass effect on the button, but we have button style glass. So I wonder if we still need to do glass effect. I don't think so. It's really hard to tell. Let's use dark if that's easier. Oh yeah, so it's slightly easier to see. And I will also have to zoom in a little bit. Oh, what's that? Yeah, it seems like they're touching, but also, you know, it does not look really amazing to me, to be honest. So what happens if I disable this? Well, it looks horrible. So on the well, I'm not so sure about that. Okay, so let's do something else for a moment. So let's put two buttons next to each other. Now that's really interesting, isn't it? So why is one button different than the other one? Okay, so if we're using plus buttons, it's fine. Okay. Okay, let me move this down. And then we'll just take one step after the other. Okay. Okay. Let's copy this entire thing here and take a look at how it's supposed to look like. All right, so this works apparently. What happens if we remove that? Aha! Did you see that? All right, so they need to be close enough to each other, but we have this huge spacing up here. And there's spacing here as well. Well, that's really confusing. Oh, well, because they're not buttons, they are not touching. Ooh. Interesting. Spacing 40. Wow, that's really interesting. So that it looks like you need to be extremely specific about the spacing. Okay. Ooh. Oh, look at that. So they're touching now. Okay. And then I want to have a negative offset here. Oh. Okay. Well, well, I don't know about that. Okay, so let's add a border so we can better see what's happening. All right, so this is for animations. This is not what we're after. Okay, so let's look at what the internet has to say about class effect container, button style dot class. Class effect union. Okay, that's for grouping. That's not what we want. Yeah, so we built the button. We'll tell it it is a button style class. Yeah, this looks good, but again, okay, let's take Donnie's code and see how that looks like. Oops. You need to make some space. Oh, no, not that. Okay. It seems like they are touching, so let's use a H-stack instead. It's very difficult to say. Oh yeah, all right, so they are touching indeed. Not just touching, but morphing into each other. Yeah, it's very clearly visible. Okay, cool. So let's use that to start refactoring our code. So system image is plus. We don't need the foreground style. And this one should be, let's do minus. It's really funny that it really just uses the space that, you know, is needed. Okay, so that works. So I assume that the problem is that we're telling the button that it should have a circular shape. Let's try that. Right, so now they're too small to touch. And what we did in order to make that work is we said control size is large. Oh, yeah, well. And now let's use the plus button as well here. Yeah, so this seems to be the problem, right? Spacing, let's do 8. That's pretty tight though. Is it? No, it's not. Okay. Yeah, This doesn't look like they're properly blending into each other. Not morphing into each other. That's what I believe. Okay, let's, oops. What happens if I do that? Okay. Oh, what? I think we are on to yet another bug here, people. Okay, so let's do 12. No, 8, sorry. I want to get them closer. Okay, so I've got a glass effect container. I've got a H-stack with a spacing of 8. I've got the buttons here. Buttons are control size large and button style glass. And now, and I'm not using circular shape for them. Now if I press the button, it will size up and it will touch, well, it will not actually touch the other one, but because it gets really close by, the other button basically says, I am morphing into you, and we can clearly see this, the button gives up its shape. So, and now when I say I want to use a circular shape for this button here, then if I press the other button, the circular shape button will not melt into the other. So you can see it overlap if I press the circular shape button, but it doesn't melt into it. Okay, so let's play around with, play around with the order of the modifiers. Maybe that helps. No, it doesn't. Nope. Well, that's sad. All right, so that means my little glass effect container experiment here, or my idea of using the same kind of design as the messages app, doesn't seem to work, because the messages app does have a rounded button. Do you see that? Oops. There we go. And even if I press the plus button, it will morph into the other UI element. You can also see, oops, yeah, if I drag it to the right, it will move a little bit with me. Yeah, so you can also see the difference of the button here. Right, so if I press this one, it looks very different than this. You can see that the glow shape behind it looks different. So maybe it's this. Oh no, sorry, what was I doing? Let's go back up here. So let's remove this. No, sorry, this one. Interesting. Okay, so spacing 2, spacing 0. Nope. What about this offset thing here? Oh, that's too much. Okay, so, all right, so the offset thing seems to help. And with that, we can go back to, okay. Well, that's interesting. So I still think that there might be a rendering issue with this kind of like spotlight effector on it. So if you look at you know, if I press here, you can see that there is, you know, the circle turns whitish or bright, and then there is this kind of like other spotlight effect on top of that. So yeah, let's see if we can make this work. Are you still with me? send me a heart if you know, to cheer me on. So so let's clean up a little bit. It's really difficult to read what's going on here. So we actually only need one button, and we can probably also remove the border. And then what we want to do is, what did we do? We used an offset. We moved the thing to the left using an offset. So how about this? And I will also comment out this. Okay, more offset. 20. Oh, that is too much. Oh, we don't have, well, okay, so the glass effect container is there, so it needs to be different. So we don't want it just for this, but for the entire component. So like this. Okay, so, and then well. Do we just have to do that on? No. What if I change the button and use this? Not really. And then maybe spacing 8. I really can't make them melt into each other, can I? Do you see? You know, it feels like there are two completely separate things there. Oh, wait, why do we have a spacing here? It wants to melt, but it doesn't. I wonder if we actually need this H stack up here. So we don't need this, right? Oh, look at that. Maybe I got overly excited about this glow effect, because here we still have this ellipsis. Well, it does seem like it is melting. So what happens if we take like a really large number? What is the spacing good for? Well, it says with the provided spacing, but it doesn't really say what it means. So it does say that it uses the spacing to provide, to determine SwiftUI uses the spacing provided to the effect container along with the geometry of the shapes themselves to determine appropriate shapes to move in and out of. So in the example below, the eraser image transitions into and out of the pencil image when the isExpanded variable changes. The container has a spacing of 40 and the H stack has a spacing of 40 as well. This moves the eraser image into the pencil image when the eraser's nearest edge is less than or equal to the container's spacing. Ooh, okay. Okay, so that means we want to use the same spacing for the H stack as well as for the effect container. Good. And that means, oh yeah, so that means the effect container needs to go outside of the H stack. And then 200 obviously is not, oh, look at that. What? Well, come on. Well, it looked so nice. So if we have a spacing of 40 here and none here, they will morph into each other. If we have 40 and 40, it will not work. Let's just add another button for funsies. Okay, if we remove both spacings, and then tell it, well, you don't have to be a circle. No, they kiss. All right, there you go. And there, well, do you see that? It works for all of them. All right. Okay, well, I guess that answers the question of whether or not we can use a circular button border shape. I guess. What about, yeah, so even if we have a small button, it still works. So you tell me, is this a bug or not? It sounds like one to me. I mean, you should be able to use a button border shape, but apparently if you do that, then it no longer works. We could use an offset. What was the offset they used? Offset of -40. Well, that's clearly too much. -10, no, -5. Yeah. All right, that seems to work. Let's take another look at the messages implementation. Well, it does not, it is pretty close. You know, they're pretty near to each other. But I'm not sure if it's the same distance. But I'll take it. I'll take it. It's good enough for me. Nice. So we can remove all of this, that, you know, the stuff that we just used for debugging, and then go to zoom to fit. All right, and then run this again, and then enjoy the fruit of our work. Ta-da! Well, and kind of ta-da. Ta-da-ish. Let's take a look at light mode. And light mode is even harder to see. But it works somewhat-ish. Nice. Hello. How can I use the class effect container in SwiftUI? Thinking. Or maybe not. Here we go. Ooh, is not a built-in SwiftUI view. Oh, well, this is clearly wrong. I'm sorry. Let's see what the on-device AI has to say about it. How can I use the class effect container in SwiftUI? Okay, let's do it. How can I use the class effect container in SwiftUI? Thinking, more thinking. Ooh, all right, so this seems to be better. To use the class effect container in SwiftUI, you need to create a view that contains another view with the class effect container. So nested? Yeah, well, that's also not that great, to be honest. But anyways, and also one line and more text that goes here, so we can have 2 lines. All right, so this effect still doesn't work. Let's run this on the device to see if this is maybe a simulator issue. And maybe I need to spend more time to explore what is the issue. Okay. Here we go, running on the device. One line, second line. Yeah, no, it looks the same. Okay. So we'll have to look into that. Maybe it's a bug in SwiftUI, maybe it's an implementation error. Anyways, I think I've achieved what I wanted to achieve today. And yeah, thanks for everybody for tuning in. And I think we'll do another one next week. And in the meantime, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment if you found something interesting, or if you want me to look into something specific next time around. And yeah, check out all my other videos. They are up there, pointing in the right direction. All right, bye everybody.